But I just want to bring up one of our latest videos. It went out, I think, about a week ago or so, just over a week ago. Now, you might be able to see it just up here on the screen. I just need to make sure. Yep, there it is. Lovely. And I'll just pull this up a little bit higher here for you. Now, you can see this is a program that we did for Creation Conversations a number of months back, but this went out just a week or so ago. And it's about Jurassic Ark and the living fossil flood deposit that is found there. It's a segment that Diane did, and it actually got quite a nice number of views, a little bit more than normal. Just over 2,000 views on our YouTube channel, which is great. Anyway, the point being is that there was quite a lot of comments. Obviously, the YouTube algorithm swung in our favor, and we've ended up with quite a few more viewers and, as always, quite a few more comments. And a lot of the comments are from a sort of antagonistic point of view. You can see, evolution talking here about the bacteria and the evolution in bacteria and penicillin resistance, which is something which we've dealt with extensively, not only on Creation Conversations, but also on our AskJohnMackay.com website. But there seems to be a recurring theme amongst the skeptics, which is this question of evolution and whether or not change means evolution or whether or not evolution means change. You can see here this particular comment here, Diane, look, you seem to completely misunderstand modern evolution theory. Evolution does not require change. It attempts to explain how change may slowly happen in response to changing environmental pressures or other factors. And again, here, look, this one, evolution doesn't demand change. Now, you can obviously go and have a look at this video. It's well worth watching it. It's a good little program that Diane did on Creation Conversations a little while back. But you see, what we are going to eventually do in a week or so's time is deal completely with a program answering this question: does evolution require change? Does evolution mean change? And I mean, I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler here, right? You see, Charles Darwin, in his book on the origin of species, he said, my theory is dependent on not necessarily the strongest creature surviving, but the one that's most adaptable to change. So you see, Darwin, the certainly popularizer, many people would view him as the founder of evolution. He certainly seemed to think it had something to do with change. But perhaps we'll have a comment briefly from John and Diane, because this is a little sort of preview, a little sneak peek, because we're going to come back and really extensively deal with this question. And obviously, it doesn't just come into what is evolution. It doesn't just deal stuff like antibiotic resistance in bacteria. It also goes into things like living fossils and what really is the point. Does evolution actually require change? So, John, Diane, any quick comments before we move on?
Being gender biased, Diane, ladies go first.
Thank you.
Well,
yes, indeed.
Diane. So.
Charles Darwin was presenting a theory of change about how creatures that were different changed into ones different from now, changed into the ones that we have now. If you look at the standard theory of evolution of the history of life, according to that, we all started out as single cells, which had to change into something else in order to get to all the amazing variety of life that we have now. In fact, you regularly come across articles about, our last common ancestor, which was something quite different to what we see on the earth today. So certainly in everyone's mind, and in Charles Darwin's mind, evolution did mean change. And if you don't have change, you don't have evolution. And that was the very point we were making with that program, that the evidence shows living fossils, things that don't change. Now, Darwin admitted that these things exist, but he called them anomalies because they didn't fit with his theory. So if anyone else has something to add about
Yes.
that, but yes, we will. We'll go into that a little bit more, and into the whole issue of living fossils and the evidence from both living things and fossil things.
I'm reminded of the politics of change here, not to want to change away from the subject, but to change to a similar analogy from the Aboriginals in Australia. I was working in Mount Isa, Cloncurry region, and there was a place up there, Century Hill, Century Town, call it whatever you like, but Century was the common theme there. And when I was first there, it was just regarded as a block of black rock that was worth nothing. And the Aboriginals did not claim it as sacred or anything. And then the mining companies found, hey ho, there's a big pile of ore here. All of a sudden, it was sacred land that had always been regarded as so by the Aboriginals. And of course, they reaped the good financial profit out of that. In other words, the designation of something is often related to the aims or the goals of the people making the claim. Now, in the case of evolution, the comments we're seeing about evolution doesn't demand change would have got you failed in a high school test, in a university test, because what you're really saying is that evolution and producing after their own kind are not all that different. But in reality, evolution is radically different, so that if you say evolution doesn't demand change, are you saying evolution hasn't caused change? Because if you do, you really should own up to being a creationist who believes things after their own kind. But what's happening is this. You see, we have been so successful, and you can watch many of my debates around the countryside and other creationists debating as well. Often the easiest tactic is to go through the fossil record and show the comments that I've made so often from Professor Carter from Cambridge. Once an organism appears, it seems to remain inherently stable. Now, he thought of that long before Stephen Gould came up with his static view of evolutionary ideas. But you see, in reality, you can go to the fossils, and that's one area I've done all over the planet, from Alaska down to the southern islands off the coast of Australia, from east to west. You can find a fossil, call it as old as you like, accept the age of it, and if it's a stromatolite, it remains a stromatolite if it survived to the present. Yes, it may get bigger, smaller, fatter, thinner, any subspeciation form you like, but in reality, it remains the basic kind. So what we're looking at is the fact that creationists are so successful in claiming that non-change is the trademark of the fossil record. Darwin said so himself, we confirm that, the fossils show it, and you are talking through your nose. If you say evolution doesn't demand change, you are trying to find a loophole when there are none. So we will come back to that in a full program, because you need to clarify that going from molecules up to men does actually involve a little bit of change, and you need to admit it. Trying to find picky holes by saying, oh no, you don't, you can stay a flatfish if you like, or if you can't change. Sorry, we'll come back and beat you on the head with that nicely, of course, in a few programs' time. Back to the team.
Oh, that's great stuff.
One of the commenters was saying that it doesn't have to involve change. It's only change in response to environmental changes. Is that right? I think that was one of the
comments. Yes,
So in say 1 million years, how much environmental change is there going to be? A lot, and yet they're saying creatures haven't changed for 200 million years. I mean, the amount of environmental change in that period of time under their understanding is incredible. Even the dinosaur extinction was because of a major environmental change, and yet things like the Nautilus and crocodiles and things haven't changed for even longer periods than that. So they're saying they're unchanged through all these environmental changes anyway.
Yeah, especially when you realise that you can trace back a huge number of living fossils after their kind all the way back to the Cambrian explosion, right? So some 500 million years, supposedly, earliest kinds of life. In fact, stromatolites go back even further than that, supposedly, to the billions of years. And really what you're saying is, well, in 500 million years worth of environmental change, there's been no evolution, right? Now, what that tells you, and the only thing you can see is, or in terms of change, is effectively extinction. So creatures die out. And so what it tells you is that these creatures have been reproducing after their own kind, and they're designed to do that because environmental change will either kill them off, force them to adapt within their kind, or they will continue reproducing after their kind with no change whatsoever. And that's exactly what we observe in the fossil record.
It tells you they're zealots to their own religion as well.
Okay.
Nothing will convince them otherwise.